Welcome back, everybody, to Brown Bag Bets, powered by BetSperts. We are your daily dose of quick hit handicapping and sports betting picks. I'm Alex Christensen. Andy's talking golf. For some reason, there's golf in Mississippi or something. You guys talked about it yesterday, but I assume that was just a joke. So it's Tuesday. Matt Rooney's joining me. Before we get into it, though, we must say, Matt, good luck to everyone in the state of Florida, the country of Cuba, the Bahamas. I hope that you decided to take these couple days to go literally anywhere else because it looks like it's going to be a mess. Do you know anybody down there?
Thankfully, no. The family has a condo down there up around a little bit, but a couple hours south of the Tampa area. But that's on the eighth floor of a high rise, so it should be okay. But yeah, it feels like once a year these big hurricanes kind of happen, and you just kind of keep fingers crossed, hope they're not too bad. But it seems like not only there, but the Atlantic side is going to get some tropical storm effect from it too. So this is keep your eyes open and hope you got out of Florida if you're down there.
Indeed. And let's talk about something, I guess, slightly less terrible. There was a football game last night. You know, I guess condolences to all the no touchdown bettors. And it was a big sweat. Apparently, DraftKings, Matt, was doing a promo, 1+ touchdowns in the game for like even money or something. And man, it was kind of sweaty. But the second half was fun. Congrats to the Deep Dive boys for another second half play there. Cowboys plus 105 or 102, whatever it was, cashes easily. Unfortunately, I didn't get my first touchdown score, but still pretty good on the year. What did you think of the game overall? What did you learn?
For as low scoring as it was early, I didn't think it was like a terrible football game. I think that there were two offenses that were pretty competent in between the 20s, and then once they kind of got close there, couldn't really do too much. And I guess that's what happens when you don't have the best of quarterback play. Man, if Daniel Jones could just like throw consistently, he would be really, really good with how slippery he is and the running ability he's got. But man, just the throwing isn't quite there. And we were talking about it before the show, but Cooper Rush is just continues to impress. He's not a starter in the NFL. I mean, honestly he'll probably get a starting job somewhere next year with the performance he's putting in now. But he's not that good to be a starter. But like he's almost like an ideal backup. He takes football. He can hit people off play action. He can stand in the pocket. He can move a little bit. I like what I've seen from Cooper Rush now in 3 starts because he had the one against Minnesota last year too, where they won in prime time on the road.
Yeah, and again, he's not a great quarterback. As I try to think of comparables, kind of what Tyrod Taylor was, maybe he could be something like that, a little less athletic. But you put him, say, on a team like the Colts instead of having putrid Matt Ryan for the first couple of weeks. Would that be a little bit of a better situation? Somebody like Carolina, would that work instead of having Baker Mayfield trying to make that work again?
My Bears.
Your Bears, right? I like Justin Fields. I don't think it's a
So do I. I think he's going to be fine. Bad start, but I think he's going to be fine. But yeah,
and the Browns
I'm
too,
with you.
right? Instead of Jacoby Brissett, but it does seem like he has that high floor that you're looking for in a quarterback when you can't fight a great one. Because a lot of times the NFL comes down to having a not bad quarterback, and he seems to be pretty not bad.
Yeah, and the Cowboys' offensive line took a little while to figure it out last night. Seeing the switching in Jason Peters there on the left side at guard really got the running game going, but showed up the pass pro a little bit. But for a guy that was under pressure a lot early, he didn't really seem to get happy feet and start dumping the ball away early. He seemed pretty comfortable in the pocket. Then once the line cleared up, he obviously was even more comfortable in the pocket, but he didn't look rattled by a pretty good Giants pass rush early, which is, again, another thing speaking to that high floor that you're talking about, which is kind of what Cooper Rush is giving you. But I had fun with that game last night. It wasn't the best Monday Night Football game, obviously. The scoring wasn't quite there early, but I thought the second half was a lot of fun. You had some big plays. I mean, Saquon busted out that big run. Zeke looked pretty good in the second half there when the Cowboys were trying to melt the game away. CeeDee Lamb made up for the brutal drop with the unbelievable one-handed catch and then running over the camera person. But that was I had a lot of fun with that second half, and I had a Cowboys money line, so I like that even more.
Yeah, looking in the chat here, Charlie, with the weather issues on East Coast, is it too early to predict and grab some unders? Number one, yes, it is way too early to predict. We don't necessarily know where this hurricane is going. It looks like it's going to come up sort of through the Gulf of Mexico and then maybe push up into some other states. But once it hits land, it should slow down. It'll just be kind of some rain and wind. It looks like any games that are directly in its path are being in conversations of being delayed or being moved to a different location. So obviously take out that impact. And then there's the second part of the fact that, with all due respect, Charlie, if you know about this, so does everybody else. And when the whole market knows about something, it looks like it's definitely built into some of the numbers here. I haven't had too good of a chance to go through the early lines. We
Well,
can
there's
obviously
a
listen to the
college
deep
line.
dive.
North Carolina hosts Virginia Tech, which obviously isn't going to get the hurricane, but it'll get probably some tropical storm. And that line dropped. It opened at 53.5, was down to 49.5 yesterday. So, and that's a Monday line that dropped 4 points. It's back up to 50, 51, but like that's an example of how the market, if you know about it, the market knows about it too, and so does everybody else betting, and that money's coming in on unders.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you're thinking about doing this, pull up BetSperts, pull up, some kind of app that shows you a chart of how the line has moved. Again, you could do that on BetSperts. Click on
You
the
can.
game; they'll show you kind of how the lines moved. And if you've seen, like you said, I mean, that's a big move, 4.5 points like that. Then the market has already gone in there and pushed back against it. Honestly, it might be a good spot to go a little contrarian. I tend to think that given what we know about hurricanes and how erratic they can be, and how the fact that the market has gone in here and kind of punished these numbers down a bit, I wonder if no one knows, but they're already leaning under. Maybe there is some value to going overs, but I don't know nearly enough about football handicapping. But that would be my thought. Again, if you're thinking about this, everyone else has already thought about this. It looks like the market's reacted to it. And again, we know that hurricanes are erratic and hard to predict. So it might even just be better to go a little contrarian at this point.
Yeah, predicting the weather is not necessarily easy, especially for those of us that don't study the weather.
Sometimes it's easy. Hopefully, the PPA should start bringing back some weather bets. But I digress. I did already look at the schedule. There's no stinking afternoon baseball. All the tennis is early today. I guess I'll have to do some work this afternoon. Maybe take a nap.
It's
But
Tuesday. There's not a lot of day baseball on Tuesdays, but
how much
I
baseball do we
did.
have left?
We got next week, I believe, is the last week of the season. So really coming down to the wire here. I don't have day baseball, but I got your Phillies here in a money line parlay.
I like this. Let's
They
get into
are
it.
currently trying to hold off the Milwaukee Brewers. They have a game and a half lead for that last wild card spot.
Still
I'll
do.
start with them here. This is my NL East money line parlay. Not a whole lot of value on the board today, and I've talked about it with you here. Talked about it in the blog on BetSperts. Coming down to the stretch, similar to the hockey, similar to basketball. When there's teams not playing for much, it's really hard to figure out when you want to bet on certain teams because, yeah, the Dodgers should go out and beat the Padres tonight, but the Dodgers have had everything locked up for a long time, and they could be on cruise control a little bit. It's really not worth betting. The three NL East teams here have something to play for. The Mets and Braves separated by just a game in the division. Phillies, like I mentioned, hold a half lead over the Brewers for that final wild card spot. And the Phillies are in a spot at Wrigley against the Cubs where they can make up some ground. The Brewers are hosting Cardinals, and while the Cardinals have everything pretty much sewn up, they can really put the Brewers away and keep the rivals out of the playoffs. I think that's a spot where you see the Cardinals play. The Phillies have Zach Wheeler on the mound. He's been worse, significantly worse on the road this year than he has been at home, but he's still okay on the road. He goes up against Marcus Stroman, who has been actually terrible at Wrigley Field this year. He's had a pretty solid season, but pretty much all of his solid starts have been away from home. Been really bad at Wrigley. He's 1-5 with an ERA over 6. The Phillies hit the ball really well and they hit righties well. So I'm going to go with the Phillies here on that money line. The Mets and the Braves, like I said, separated by just a game in the division, and they have a series coming up with each other later in the week. Braves are at the Nationals. The Nationals are terrible. The Mets host the Marlins. Carlos Carrasco's thrown for the Mets. He's been better at home. He's been really good down the stretch and really good against the Marlins this year. 3-0 in 4 starts with an ERA just over 2. Kyle Muller starting for the Braves today. Only his third start of the year, got absolutely rocked in his first one, but his second start really settled down. 5 innings, 2 earned runs, 5 strikeouts. So I like all 3 of those teams to take care of business against significantly inferior opponents. Just on the money line here, parlaying them together, get plus 237, just because all these teams still have something to play for, and that's what I really look for down the stretch here with baseball, hockey, basketball, like I mentioned.
Yeah, thanks, Lake Show. Looks like there's about 9 or so games left for everybody. So yeah, not much time for our Baltimore Orioles to get their crap together. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. And that's run
Our
not even. What do you
Baltimore
think of
Orioles
that?
won me some money yesterday, though. I had
Like
a
that.
Orioles team total over 4.5. They beat Boston 14-8, and they had 4 runs through 2 innings. So that was
Should have sold some
that was
runs.
that was a nice easy one for me. No sweating on that one.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Lake Show, for that. What do you think of the Mets run line? Just play that.
I don't mind it, but the value is only about money on it. All of those run lines were about even money, so I just figured I wanted to try and get some real juice there. Zach Wheeler's road performance scared me away just a little bit from the run line, but if you wanted to go a Mets run line, I think it's around plus 105, plus 106. Go for it. That's not a bad bet either.
Beautiful. Let's jump into some tennis. All this stuff is going to be nice and early morning. No Parma today. They're just finishing up there. Unfortunately, I don't have any lines in Italy. But Tallinn or again, I don't speak Estonian or anywhere. Did you know that Tallinn was in Estonia, Matt?
We learned that yesterday. Andy and I did some research live on air.
That's good.
Looked up where it was. I thought it was Tallinn. It's Tallinn, apparently. We talked about how much we like the Estonian flag. Nice looking flag, the blue, white, and the black.
Sharp.
But yeah, we're all in on Estonia now.
Tallinn, let's jump in. Couple first set overs there and a money line, but we'll start with Golubic Mahova. Golubic, a nice underdog win yesterday. First set here over 9.5 games. Thought about playing the full match over. But again, my concern always is we see a very long first set, a very quick second set. And that's really how it sets up for me here. Mahova has been a great player this year when she's been able to stay healthy. Always kind of a tough thing for her. But if we get through this first set, again, this will be a good chance of a 7-5, maybe a 7-6 here. 9.5 looks great for me on a total for the full match. It looks like it's headed up to 21.5. Katie Boulter, big underdog against Belinda Bencic. This one's a little tough. This time of year, it's really hard to figure out motivation to some of these women. It's the end of the season. There's not too many ranking points, not a ton of dollars to be won here by making deep runs in these tournaments. And again, it's a late into the season. The tennis season starts in January. We're talking about 8-9 months of tennis and travel across the world on some of these women's bodies. It can be really tough. Bencic, though, looked pretty solid in her first match. Regardless, though, I think Katie Boulter can really continue to finish the nice season that she's had. She is the type of player that will be looking to make a long run in this event, grab as many ranking points as she can. You know, those mid-ranked players, this is the time of year where they can collect enough money to help pay their teams, help finish funding the year, get some ranking points so that next year is a little bit easier. I look at this match, I'm seeing plus 300 and plus 4.5. I have this closer to plus 225 and plus 3.5. Just given the style of play as well. Thought about maybe a first set over here, but if the first set goes over, we're in great shape on that plus 4.5. So I'll just play that angle instead. And then Victoria Kuzmova is going to be playing Shuai Zheng. Zheng, a big favorite here. Makes sense. She generally beats women of this class, but Kuzmova starting to play some better tennis. She's a strong serving lefty, which can be problematic for other players. It's just the ball spins a little differently off that left-handed serve. Again, looks a lot like kind of the first match where I'm expecting a long set, and then whoever wins that probably takes care of business quickly. In the second, I will probably be live betting second set unders if, again, we hit this here. Just think about the rhythm of the match going that way. And we get a 9, not even a 9.5. Zhang is such a big favorite. The match total itself is only at 19.5. So we get a 9. Nice high push probability there, but I think we'll get a 6-4, maybe even a 7-5. So 2 first set overs and a big underdog in Tallinn. That'll be early tomorrow morning.
I'm just glad I didn't have to pronounce the names again today. I would not have done well.
We do enjoy making you do that. It's quite a bit of fun.
I feel like when I've been put on the spot, I've done a pretty decent job. Not the best, but I feel like I'm hitting 60%. Which
it's good. It's one of those things where almost nobody does a good job, and to be frank, not a lot of people really know what the correct pronunciation of some of these names are. It seems like every year some women's tennis player or men's tennis player is like, yeah, no, you guys have been saying my last name wrong for like 5 years. Like, it's whatever. I'm just kind of over it. And then, so now we have Raducanu instead of Radu. It's a whole mess. And I'm trying to remember what the other one was. Maybe it'll pop into my head. But while I think of that, let's talk a little college football. I got 2 bets here. When are these?
These are both on Saturday. There was a Friday night game I'm interested in, but I might hold on till Friday's brown bag bets to talk about that one to give us some Friday action. But there are 2 early lines here that I really, really like. Starting in the Big Ten, I believe it's the big noon kickoff game, the national game on Fox. Michigan is on there for the second consecutive week, this time visiting Iowa. I really like the under 42.5 in this game. So far this year, Iowa unders have really been a thing. They just barely went over 37.5 at Rutgers, 34.5, thanks to a late field goal to push it over. But Iowa's been very, very good defensively, but really in general against the run, they're allowing under 75 yards a game on the ground. Michigan, if you watch that Maryland game, without the run game, they were not going to really win that football game. Blake Corum went off, had himself a great day. But Iowa's defense is going to come to play. They're going to sell out to stop the run. They're going to make J.J. McCarthy probably try and beat him. And while J.J. McCarthy's a very talented quarterback, this is his first road game of the season, his first kind of first Big Ten road start in a pretty tough environment, a pretty tough place to play. He looked a little shaky at times early in that Maryland game, missed some throws, especially on deep shots that would give Michigan, really good chance to break that game open. Couldn't really do it. So I like Iowa to keep this one low scoring. Michigan still probably comes out within. But with how banged up they are, you don't know if they're going to get Donovan Edwards back. And if it's just Blake Corum running the ball, I think he's a smaller guy. I think he's going to get beat up a little bit. I think he'll still have himself a nice game. But I think Iowa's defense up front is going to be able to stop the run a bit. So, and I also don't think they're going to be able to score much because their offense is just putrid. And Michigan's defense is pretty darn good still. So I like under 42.5. I think that's a lot of points. And then I'm going with Washington State minus 3.5 against Cal. Really just banking on this not being a letdown for Washington State. They had Oregon really on the ropes. Their lead was 34-22 with only a couple minutes left at home. Oregon kind of pulls off the miracle comeback and win that one in Pullman. But they get a not nearly as good Cal team, a Cal team that struggled to score with the exception of a home game against Arizona, who's just not a very, very good football team. Washington State played pretty darn well this year. They went to Wisconsin and got a nice win there. They should have beat Oregon at home. The only other two games they had, Idaho and Colorado State, they both won. I really like what they do offensively, and I don't think Cal, if Washington State's going to be able to put up some points, is going to be able to score with Washington State. So I like Washington State there in that Pac-12 matchup. I just think their offense is going to be able to put up a little bit too many points for Cal. But that's what I got. The Michigan-Iowa Big Ten under 42.5, and Washington State laying the 3.5 at home against Cal.
Do you understand Patrick's verbal meme? I do not.
Kinnick. Oh, I get Kinnick at night, and it's harder to play at Kinnick at night than it is at noon. But this is also like the big national game. This is like the big This is like the big game of the week for them. So I get that. But weirder things do happen in Iowa at night.
Michigan really hasn't won in Iowa since 2005. That's very interesting, given how up and down Iowa's been and how good Michigan's been.
Michigan up until the last year, last like 2 or 3 years, hadn't been great. They had some kind of up and down years, and they were kind of a 9-3, 10-2 team most years. And Iowa, their offense hasn't always been this bad. They've had some pretty good quarterbacks back in the day. So it's a long time, obviously, but it's not that shocking to me. I do think they win this one, but I think it's going to be a tougher time for them to score points than they had against Maryland. I think Iowa's defense is going to play them pretty darn tough.
Hey, there is something.
And they're the best punter in college football.
Or in Iowa, maybe they're doing something to the food. I don't really know because it just seems like every year a Big Ten team goes up into Iowa and just gets smacked for no reason. So
yeah, it's one of the more unexplainable things in college football, but it seems to happen.
Well, it should be a fun game to watch. Thanks, everybody. Great job in the comments today. I think we just had one Patrick, maybe two. Paxton, Leg Show, Charlie, everybody. Dan, as always, producer Dan. We love his stuff. Give us a thumbs up, like, subscribe, rate, and review. Just write anything in the review. Just, hey, something, put it in there. It makes Andy very happy. Thanks to our sponsors, FanDuel, No Home Advantage, Profit Exchange. Go check out Prize Picks. I'm sure there'll be some fun Prize Picks stuff here. That's probably a good way to do baseball instead of betting it. And we'll be back tomorrow for a little Hunt Day and Win Total Wednesday.